What type of business to start? If I were you, I would start a business with high margins and low overhead. That sounds silly, but for example, flipping houses is not. Flipping houses is very narrow margins. I'll give an example of a gym, but I hear a lot of people who they want to start a restaurant, they want to start a gym, and I encourage people to kind of do the math. How much do you charge for whatever you're selling and how much does it actually cost you? And if those numbers are close together, I wouldn't do that business. Thanks, Steven. Hi, everybody. This is so exciting. I'm Jeremy. I'm going to talk about starting and growing a business. Normally, when I give talks, I'm talking about the benefits of investing in low-fee index funds, and I thought that this would be very trafficked content for you guys. So instead, I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship. I think that starting a business is something that can maybe relate to a lot of people here because it can either be your path to FI, like it was for me, or it can be like a side hustle, or it can be a life post-FI. I think one of the cool things about being financially independent is it gives you the flexibility to take some risk and do something that isn't guaranteed, like starting a business. And the other cool thing about starting a business is that there's no real exact roadmap. Getting a job, maxing out your 401k, yada, 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 that's kind of a very clear path. Starting a business just requires lots of trial and error and figuring stuff out. And so maybe this will be helpful to some people. All right, so who is this guy? I'm Jeremy. I retired at 36 years old. I'm now 41 years old, so I haven't had a real job. I've never really had a real job. I've only started businesses, but I for sure quit a job at 36. I've founded or co-founded 5 different companies. It seems weird to say that because when I never saw myself as a natural entrepreneur or a natural founder or leader. I always thought that I would be the tech guy behind the visionary guy because my background's in computer science. And so if you don't see yourself as a natural visionary or a leader or a founder, maybe you could be. I think that it's actually maybe people who don't see themselves in that light often do better because a lot of people who have illusions of grandeur maybe aren't as good at executing. Now I can be found at Personal Finance Club on Instagram, where I do most of my content creation. So the agenda, I'm going to go over the 5 companies I started. Also, this whole talk's supposed to be 15, 20 minutes with lots of time for Q&A. So a lot of this is supposed to be to whet your appetite. So I'm kind of going to give you an overview of what I've done and some tips. And so please ask questions or I'm going to be very sad for 40 minutes. Tips on what type of company to start, tips on growing a company, and the Ask Me Anything. So that's the whole agenda. So here it is, the 5 companies I have ever started in my life. The first one is a bootstrapped tech startup. So when I was in college, I got a degree in computer science, and I got a job offer from Microsoft to go be a software engineer. And this was back in 2003, when Microsoft was the #1 biggest tech company. It was a great job offer. And I turned it down, and instead I decided to start this company. It's called RentLinks, and basically it's a website where if you were a renter and you want to search for an apartment, you could go to Zillow or Craigslist or apartments.com or rentals.com. There's 50 of those different sites. And so for landlords, it creates a problem. How do you post to all these different sites and keep a consistent ad and track all the incoming leads? And so I made RentLinks, where you can post once, you see it says one and done, and then you automatically go to all those different sites, and the incoming phone calls and emails are tracked back to you. I spent 12 years doing that. This is how it started. This is me in my basement college apartment with, you can see I have cinder blocks for a desk, and it was very humble beginnings, and never took any venture capital. That's what bootstrap means. We just spent less than we made. We tried to sell stuff, and I used that to eventually hire people. And so this is about 12 years later. I sold it for $5 million in 2015. So that was, thank you. So lower your expectations because the other ones are not as good. And this, by the way, is how I was able to retire. So this was when I was 34 when I sold it, and then I retired at 36. But I have started 4 other businesses. So this one is what I call the side hustle website. So there it is. It's called What's That Charge? And if you've ever seen little credit card, or if you ever look at your credit card statement and see little cryptic charges that you don't recognize, how it started was I was actually at the gym one day, and I was thinking about these charges on my credit card that I don't recognize because it's not the name of the business. It's some other crazy name. And I would Google them and nothing would come up. I was there should be someone who makes a website, who posts all these cryptic charge names, and then just says what they really are. And I was like, wait, I know how to make websites. And so my buddy and I actually had this like ongoing challenge where we would try to start and finish a business in 24 hours, which like really put a very tight box around the like how big, polished and how expansive and all that stuff. And so it was like you can see it's like a very simple website. It's just like a list of the charge names, and if you click on each one, it's just like a page with basically a page of comments where people can offer what they think that charge is. And so that was me at the gym trying to figure out how to start it. And then since then, so this is the revenue. This is the monthly revenue since the day we launched it. And you can see we started around $1,000, and it's been up and down, but the last few months it's been about $7,000 a month, and so it's been paying my rent for the last 10 years, and we've done about $300,000 in revenue, which, you know, I sold the last one for $5 million, which is great, but I love this business because I have no customers, we have no employees, we have no nothing except Google auto deposits money to our bank account every month, and it just pays my rent, and it's like beautiful. So that's business number 2. Business number 3 is I flipped houses for 2 years, a buddy and I. So this is like our very first flip. You can see the before and after there. This was after I was rich, so I had all this money, and so my buddy's like, let's flip houses. So I'd go and we'd buy these houses, we'd remodel them, we'd sell them. This is how it started in 2017. This is me, doing the HGTV smash the cabinet thing. And then this is how it's going. The last one we couldn't sell, like the market just wasn't that great for that house, so we converted to an Airbnb, and then some high school kids had like a 500-person frat party, and like our like $1 million brand new remodeled hardwood floor 5-bedroom home just got like frat boy trashed, which really sucked. And so we ended up doing 4 total flips. We closed the business in 2020. And our total profit was $120,000, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is, of course, but over the course, we were basically doing it for 2 years, and I like put up basically $1 million of my own money to buy these houses, and I was like splitting this money with my buddy, and so it's not a good return on investment. My share was like $60,000, $30,000 a year. Putting up $1 million to make $30,000 a year and doing a lot of work is not a good deal. Business number 4, the Instagram influencer. This is my Instagram account, and so after I quit my job at 36, for the next year I did nothing. I flew to Italy and coached beach volleyball for 2 months. I played video games for a year. I worked out, I traveled. I just did the things that you think that you want to do when you retire. We kind of talked about this last night, like life after FI, and I kind of discovered about myself that I need more than that. I need tension in my life. I need to be working towards something. And the thing that I like doing is helping people with finances. I like sitting down and introducing people to their Roth IRA and index funds and building wealth and paying off debt. And so I was like, I'm going to go start an Instagram account. And so, this is how it started. This is one of my first posts. You can see I have no followers. I just created a brand new account. The posts were super ugly. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was like, during that process, I was like, all right, you're a business guy, figure this out. So I iterated, I tried to improve. And then now we have 415,000 followers, we're profitable, I have 2 full-time employees, and we just crossed $1 million in sales, and that's over the last 2 years. So we've been doing about $500,000 a year in sales, which is crazy because it wasn't supposed to be a business. I have a master's in computer science, I successfully sold a tech company. This is not the type of business that I should be starting. I should be going to San Francisco and getting venture capital and building some tech nonsense. And so doing my passion project, and actually, it took me I think probably 6 years to get to $1 million in revenue for my first business. So doing it in 2 years is crazy. And then business number 5 is actually a VC-backed tech startup. So about a year and a half ago, I have actually the same guy that I started What's That Charge with. He was starting a real company, which is a machine learning company with 2 other really smart dudes. And so the 4 of us got together and we're like, let's go big. We applied to Y Combinator, which is a Silicon Valley tech accelerator. It has a 2% acceptance rate compared to Harvard's 5% acceptance rate. So basically all these small companies want to be in the good graces of Silicon Valley's shining light. And it's very, very hard to get into. And we applied and we got in. And so this is us in 2021. That's how it started. How it's going. I'm not in that picture because I left the company. It turned out that doing Personal Finance Club and starting a tech startup was just too much. And I learned about myself that I don't want to be killing myself at this point in my life. People like asking me to hang out and go golfing or whatever, and I was saying no because I was trying to like build two companies at the same time. But I still really like these guys, and we went through IC. They raised $1 million. They're working on, I don't know if I should say that. It's probably not that big of a secret, but they're working on growth. That's not my company anymore, so I'm hesitant to give too many secrets about that company. But yeah, they're a young tech company, and that could be $1 billion company because machine learning is this like huge thing. They're making really cutting edge technology, but it's also very, very hard because a lot of people are doing it. So there's the 5 companies I've ever founded or co-founded with their varying degrees of success or not. And so now I'm going to give some tips on how I would do it. So what type of business to start? If I were you, I would start a business with high margins and low overhead. That sounds silly, but for example, flipping houses is not. Flipping houses is very narrow margins. You can lose a lot of money. It requires a lot of capital outlay, and there's like a lot of overhead with all that. So, and I'll give an example of a gym, but I hear a lot of people who they want to start a restaurant, they want to start a gym, and I encourage people to kind of do the math and think about, how much do you charge for whatever you're selling and how much does it actually cost you? And if those numbers are close together, I wouldn't do that business. I would prefer digital to physical goods and services. So again, like selling food, like a restaurant is like my nightmare business because super thin margins, it's tied to your hours. You always have to be there. There's a lot of risk, and there's not this next one, which is a large upside. So when I think about a business, I think about what's like a good scenario? Like if you get it going and it's going pretty well and you're kind of like, you're not like the biggest company in the world, but like you kind of like have it stable. Can you take that and can you 10x it? Is there a way to just keep doing what you're doing and get 10 times the revenue, 10 times the sales, 10 times the profit? And if that's not an easy transition, not necessarily easy, but if it's not a clear transition to 10x it, then I would not do that business. And I'm going to give examples of this in a sec, which will hopefully make it more clear. I also like to make money when I sleep. And so actually right now, I consider doing this as a gimmick, but right now we're doing a sale on Instagram for this course, which is how we made the $1 million. It's like $50. It's like really like this really nice little simple course. And as I'm giving this talk, I promise you my phone is dinging with sales because it's the last day of the sale and people buy like crazy in the last day. And I love making money when I'm not doing work. And I love making money when it's not, I love putting in the work up front. Kind of like with What's That Charge, where we put in the work up front and then it's just been like paying us for 10 years, which is beautiful. And not all businesses are like that, of course. If if you're mowing lawns, you don't get paid if you don't mow the lawn, which is rough. And obviously I'm in a position of like extreme privilege. I mean, I hit the womb jackpot when I was born, like a tall white American male, and I have a computer science degree, and so I have the opportunity to make money while I sleep. But I think a lot of people do these days. For my Instagram business has nothing to do with computer science. It has to do with like making little emoji graphics. So there's opportunities out there these days. And then do the back napkin math. And so before you start a business, I think it's really important to kind of like multiply out the numbers and see what it'll look like. And I'll give an example. So I was an athlete in college. I play beach volleyball now, 2:30. And I have a lot of friends who want to start gyms. And I'm like, every time I have a friend who tells me they want to start a gym, I'm like, oh, bro, that math is so bad. And so I'm like, let's walk through it. I'm like, all right, tell me, like, how many classes you can have per day? They want to do like a CrossFit style gym or whatever. And so like, 5 classes a day, the 2 in the morning, 1 at lunch, 2 in the evening. Great. How many people can you fit in the gym? 20. You can see right here, there's like 5 people doing pull-ups, and that's a lot of pull-up bars. So they can fit 20. So 5 times 20 is 100. So that means you can fit 100 people in the gym a day. And of course, not everybody comes to every class every day, so let's just double and say people come like every other day or something. Now your gym can basically max out at 200 people. 200 people, what do they pay per month? He says, I want to make it affordable, $100. 200 times 100 is 20,000. 20,000 a month, that sounds pretty good. But now let's start looking at the expenses. Rent, like $5,000 a month. You have to pay coaches, probably another $5,000 a month. Insurance, equipment, technology, marketing, utilities. You add all of the stuff up and you get to a number like 18,000 or something like that. It gets pretty ugly. So you have $2,000 of profit for the owner doing all the work. 2,000 times 12 is 24,000. And and I say, bro, go get a job at In-N-Out Burger because you're gonna, you're gonna kill yourself getting this 200-member gym that's like this dream of success, and you're gonna be making less than you make at In-N-Out Burger. Like the back of the napkin math is so bad. Compare that to like an online fitness course or an online fitness program or an app or something like that. Let's do the back of the napkin math there. Like let's say so my first year doing Instagram, I hustled, I posted once per day. My goal was to get 50,000 followers. It took me about 12 and a half months to get there, so close. And so like let's say you can convert 1% of your followers to a paid customer. And let's say those paid customers, so 1% of 50,000 is 500. And let's say those paid customers, I'm doing math in my head here now, so I might screw this up, pay $20 a month. What is that, $10,000 a month? So now you're talking, you're year into business, you're making $10,000 a month. Let's do the expenses there. Very little, like paying Google some money, paying Adobe some money. There's like a few $100 just in digital services. So in $10,000 of revenue, maybe just if we're rounding up, you might have $1,000 of expenses. And so now you have $9,000 of profit times 12. We're talking, now you're making 6 figures a year in. And it gets worse because can you 10x it? Let's say you have a 200-person gym and you're maxed out, fully filled up, you're making $24,000 a year, you're living the dream. Now you just 10x it, right? How do you get a 2,000-person gym? You don't. Obviously there are like Globo gyms out there that have a franchise model that have been around for decades. And that's for sure, there are successful business people who do that. But that path is really, really hard. And it's not the path that you start out with when you're starting a single gym. How about, so I would say no. It's like very difficult to 10x the gym. You can't 10x the price. You can't make it $1,000. You can't 10x the number of classes. You can't 10x the membership. Like, the way to improve the gym is very, very slow. Like maybe you can open up a second gym and you kind of start from scratch there. Maybe you can franchise. But can you 10x the fitness app? Yeah. I mean, you could probably 10x the price and 10x it right there because people are really, like once they're paying you, they're willing to pay you more. You can just, there are a million accounts with 500,000 followers no one's ever heard of, and so you can just get more followers. You can go to another platform. 10xing a digital thing is what you use, so I say yes. And so, it might not, I feel like my friends have this like very romantic dream of like, hanging out in the gym and like, and there's something to be said for that human connection, but in terms of like the business model, I really hate the gym, but a fitness app might be good. And so, this isn't saying everyone should have a fitness app, but I think that these tips, if you're considering a business, are a lot of things to look at very hard when you start, because you kind of have to, and it's really hard because starting a business is a very emotional thing and you're tied to it and you want to do it and love it, and you've got this vision of what's going to happen, and so when you do the back of the napkin math and it's ugly, it's very hard to like swallow that pill, but it's much easier to look at that and do it now than like 5 years in when it's not working. Amy, by the way, out here, I was talking to her, she spent 10 years, she's talking in the back room, very naughty Amy, I'm saying your name. But she grinded for 10 years building a nurse practitioner, I'm talking about you, Amy, a nurse practitioner's business, and that was more like a physical gym where it's very hard to 10x, there's like margins, there's overhead, and then she built a course app and did much better in much less time. You can ask her for the specific numbers because it's impressive, but it kind of does speak to this exact thing. All right, so that's what type of business I would start. Now I'm going to give 2 tips on how to grow a business. And again, I have like 15 minutes here, so I'm doing my best. I might be over already, I don't know, but.
Slow down, relax.
Okay.
Cover the material.
I do speak too fast. Yeah, these are kind of generic, but I think that there are things that like really resonated with me and do help, when you're in this process of growth. So this is the Eisenhower Matrix. Maybe some of you have seen it. And the Eisenhower Matrix has 4 quadrants. On the left, there are items that are urgent, and on the right, there are items that are not urgent. And at the top, there are items that are important, and at the bottom, there are items that are not important. And so the top left are items that are urgent and important. And so these are things when you're running or growing your business that they're important and they're urgent. So for example, if you're running a bakery and someone comes in and wants to buy something, attending to that person is important because that's your business, and it's urgent because they're standing there right now. And these things are like a big part of running your business. There are also things that are important but not urgent. So in that same bakery scenario, maybe you want to develop a new line of baked goods, And it's not urgent because no one's like, oh my gosh, I need this new line of baked goods. But it is important because it could help grow your business. It could help reach out to new audiences. There are also items that are urgent but not important. And so in that same bakery scenario, maybe an insurance salesman comes in and really wants to talk to you about your insurance needs. And it's urgent because the dude's standing there right now, but it's not really important because that's not part of your agenda and you don't need insurance right now. And these things are part of things that occupy a business owner's time, that some of them fall into this quadrant. And then there are things that are not urgent and not important. And so maybe in the bakery scenario, you want to rearrange the chairs and you think that the feng shui could be better, and that's not really that important and it's not really that urgent. But a lot of times business owners spend their time there. And so where does the magic happen? The magic happens in quadrant 2. These things in quadrant, everything else is part of a business owner's time. But a business owner who's trying to grow their business has to spend a lot of time in quadrant 2. And it's, when you wrap your head around why that's true, it's really eye-opening because a lot of times we don't spend any time in quadrant 2 because it's not urgent. And it's important, but it's not urgent. And so we get so wrapped up in quadrants 1 and 3, the urgent things, the things that just keep bubbling up onto our plate, that we never go to quadrant 2. And quadrant 2 is how you build a business. And so I'm gonna give you an example. So this is my current business, the Instagram business. These are things I actually have to do. I have to run payroll because I have 2 employees. I have to post to Instagram, that's what we do. I have to respond to DMs. I want to develop a new live show. I want to check out other Instagram posts of other Instagram influencer people. I want to respond to refund requests, people who have bought the course and don't like it. We always give them a refund if they want their money back. And I want to build a Facebook ad campaign to basically retarget people who have seen us in the past and maybe sell them more. So I'm going to go through each one and let's all hold up a number of fingers, quadrants 1, 2, 3, or 4. Running payroll, which quadrant? Is it urgent, important, not urgent, not important? Can you see? All right. Running payroll, what quadrant do you guys think it is? So what one is urgent and important? 2 is not urgent and important? Everyone hold up the fingers. I'm seeing 2s, I'm seeing 1s. I would say, so it's definitely important because if you don't run payroll, that's when you go out of business. And I would say it's urgent. I heard some people saying you can schedule it. I would say maybe developing a system to schedule payroll would be important but not urgent. But I think actually getting payroll done is both urgent and important because if I don't do it, you go out of business. Did I spoil it up there? Oh, sorry. There's my answer to be. All right, posting to Instagram. What do you think? Posting to Instagram, what quadrant do you think it is? I see some 1s, I see some 2s, I see a 3.
Maybe a 2, 3, or 1.
In my opinion, it's a 1. It's urgent because if you don't post every day, you're basically not making progress. And it's important because that's how I run my business. How about responding to DMs? I see some 2s, I see some 3s. I think it's a 3. I don't think it's that important. I get, 100 DMs a day or something, and largely there's people who want to shoot the shit or, they want free advice I personally, as a human, really want to respond because there's a human there, so it's important. Someone wants an answer, they have a legitimate, honest question. But if I spend all my time just cranking out replies to DMs, it's not going to grow my business. In fact, it'll probably hurt my business because it takes away from the other stuff. All right, how about develop a new live show? So right now we're very Instagram focused.
2.
You guys got it right, it's a 2. Not important, no one's Jeremy, where's the live show? No one thinks about that. But if I start it now and do it for 2 years, in 2 years I could have a really successful, well-followed show that really helps the brand. But it's not urgent, so I'm never getting to it because I'm busy in doing 1 and 3. All right, how about checking other people's Instagram posts? 4. Some people might argue it's good to know what's out there, but I don't think knowing what other people are doing is that important, but it does, it definitely takes time. I do it, probably shouldn't. How about respond to a refund request?
1.
See some 3s, I see some 1s. I think it's a 1. It's urgent, it's important, doing refunds is part of running my business. And then, build a Facebook campaign, that's a 2. So I spoiled that one, but so you can see the 2s are things that no one's asking me to do. But if I don't develop a live show, if I don't develop the Facebook ad campaign, if I don't purposely spend a lot of time in quadrant 2, I'm just going to stay exactly where I am. I'm going to stay the exact same kind of company, the exact same size, no new products, no new growth. And so when you think about your own business, and I do this, so like when I like write down my to-do list for the day, I like think about, are any of these quadrant 2? And for quadrant 2, I try to time box those. So I block out 2 hours and say, all right, quadrant 1 and 3 stuff gets time boxed all the time. You know, people who want to pitch me something or record a podcast or whatever it is, your day gets filled up with quadrants 1 and 3. And so you have to like squeeze quadrant 2 in there to grow. So there's growth tip number 1. And growth tip number 2, this is one of my other favorite business things, is the concept of lead metrics and lag metrics. And so when you are growing a business, you look at numbers and you want those numbers to improve. And most of the numbers we'll look at are lag metrics. And the lag metrics are the thing you really want. They're easy to identify, they're easy to measure, and they're not directly actionable. And so for business, like the ultimate lag metric is revenue. You know, you can just quickly look at your books, you know how much money you made, it's the thing you want to make more money. It's certainly easy to identify, it's easy to measure. It's not directly actionable. If I see my revenue is down, I can't just be like, make $1. You know, that's not a task I can do. Like other stuff has to happen first. And an example that's non-business that I like is like fitness. If you're like trying to lose weight, the lag metric is weight. It's very easy to get on the scale, look at the number, and then feel bad about it. Oh man, I wish I was 5 pounds less or whatever. But it's not actionable. Losing a pound isn't like a step a person can take. And so what do? You look at the lead metrics. And so lead metrics are harder to identify, they're harder to measure, they are actionable, and they're predictive. And so lead metrics, identifying the lead metrics in your business is not easy. You have to figure out what are the things in your business that you can directly act on, and they're predictive of the lag metric. And so in the fitness category, I would say maybe miles walked and calories consumed are lead metrics. They're much harder to track. You can't just step on a scale and like see a number. You have to like either use a GPS watch or walk on some course or whatever. Calories consumed, much more difficult. You have to be looking at labels, you have to be using a fitness app, whatever. But those things are actionable, like walking a mile, like look, I just started. Like 1% of the way there, whatever. Walking a mile is directly actionable, and calories consumed is directly actionable. And if you track these things and improve these things, it's predictive of weight, for sure. If someone is, just naturally their life is walking 3 miles a week and they start walking 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, then 30, and they're lowering their calories along the way, for sure the weight will change. Like that's just how like the human physiology works for most people. And I think a lot of people, both in business and in fitness, get focused on the lag metrics. They look at the scale and they're mad. They look at their revenue and they're mad. But if you track and follow your you identify and track your lead metrics, they will improve, because I believe that numbers that are watched improve. Just by putting them on a spreadsheet and looking at them and checking them and making charts, that becomes part of your subconscious, and then your behavior changes to improve these numbers. So just tracking it improves it, and then the thing that you want, the lag metric, improves. So in my own business, my Instagram account sucked at the beginning. I had like no followers, the content sucked, it wasn't doing anything, there was a million other accounts out there I was competing with. And so I was like, all right, Jeremy, you're supposed to be this business guy. What are your lead metrics? And so I made this spreadsheet here. And so I identified, it's kind of hard for you to see probably, but I identified my lead metrics as how many Instagram stories I'm making, how many Instagram posts I'm making, so just more content is more opportunities to engage, and how many comments I'm making on other people's posts. And when you comment on someone else's post, what happens is your username shows up there, and if someone clicks on that, it's like a link to your profile. And so if I'm not doing that at all, there are no links to my profile out there in the Instagram ecosystem. But if I'm making like helpful, insightful, funny comments, like 10 a day, then a month later, there's 300 links out in the Instagram ecosystem pointing back to my profile. And so you can see, like we all want more followers, but how often are we like engaging with the community and commenting good, helpful, insightful, funny stuff on other people's posts, and doing that very, very often? Because the more you do that, the lead metric, that's an actionable thing, and it's predictive, because the more you do that, the more links there are to your profile, the more opportunities there are to someone to click the follow button. And so, here's my growth. The beginning, it's so small, it's hard to see, but like right there, it's basically flat. And then I started tracking, because now it's, I did bad for like a couple months, and now it's been 3 years or something. But for a few months, I was doing really bad. Then I started tracking my lead metrics, and then this is the lag metric, the growth, and you see it went up. So yeah, that is the end. Next slide says questions, and so that's. I didn't mean to start my own applause. That's really pretentious. I was just instinctively clapping. But yeah, so again, I just wanted to kind of like whet your appetite, and I would love to answer any questions. I'm not like the best business guy in the world, but maybe the 20 years of my experience I can like condense into a helpful hour.